Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Wow. Oh, God bless the National Football League. This is Purple After Dark. And honestly, we weren't even going to do this tonight. In fact, I was watching Lethal Weapon, drinking some red wine. Declan, you were watching, a Becky Lynch documentary or something on Peacock? Can't hear Declan. I think you're...
Becky Lynch and Stone Cold were talking crap, and then I saw Jim Harbaugh nugget. I said, well, here's my attention. You had my curiosity, but now you got my attention.
Joe, what were you watching? Some sort of subtitles flick on...
No. I was watching a documentary on a disappearance of a news anchor in Mason City, Iowa in 1995, the Jody Huisentruit case, which is a legendary case. Yes. Yeah, 2020.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy.
On my number one answer for Judd Zolgad Family Feud Bing Board, what was Judd watching? That would be in the top three in terms of
a random mid-90s murder mystery.
That stuff is on in our house a lot. I'm going to tell you that right now.
This is Purple After Dark, part of the Purple Daily umbrella of daily Vikings entertainment, speculation, therapy. If you guys are hanging out with us for the first time because you're just interested in the latest Vikings head coaching search, thank you. Please click the subscribe button and the like button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel here so we can spread the word about this community of Vikings fans that you guys are helping us build here. Thanks to Surly. Thanks to TCL TVs. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Here's the latest. I'm going to throw this out here, and then we can go sort of, any which direction you guys want. The headline is the Minnesota Vikings are flying Jim Harbaugh in for a face-to-face interview on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Wednesday is National Signing Day.
Oh, God.
If you're wondering whether Jim Harbaugh is serious about returning to the NFL and serious about the Vikings job, and he's also in the mix for the Dolphins job too, he is skipping National Signing Day to come to Minnesota to interview as a finalist for the Vikings head coaching job. I'll buzz through these other ones real quick here, and then we can talk. Kevin O'Connell and Raheem Morris have both interviewed in Los Angeles. The Vikings completed those interviews, or are doing so as we speak. It's all going to be done today with Kevin O'Connell and Raheem Morris. DeMeco Ryans, the Niners defensive coordinator, has withdrawn his candidacy, and according to Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, he says, my understanding is DeMeco Ryans really just isn't in a rush to leave a good situation in San Francisco. He wants to be a head coach one day and appreciated the chance to talk with the Vikings. Should be one of the hottest names in next year's coaching cycle. And then Pat Graham, the Giants defensive coordinator from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, is set to interview as a finalist in person, I believe, tomorrow in the Twin Cities. So Pat Graham, defensive coordinator Giants, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator Rams, and former head coach and pass game coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator Rams, and Jim Harbaugh are your four finalists to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
It's at times like this that I need a crystal ball, but I don't have one, so I've got a crystal Surly. I'm just going to rub it and say, oh, great Surly, what do you think is going to take place? Because this is wild and wacky. Okay, so on Harbaugh, I think we all now can agree that while it's not a slam dunk, he's going to get this job. He is, as far as I can tell, I think it's safe to say he is going to leave Michigan, and he is either going to get this job or the Dolphins job. But what's weird is, so far, piecing him together with the Dolphins job is a little bit difficult, right?
It's all very mysterious.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, well, the Dolphins wouldn't steal him away, but maybe they would if the Vikings got involved, because that means that he's going to leave the college ranks.
If he's going to leave anyways, then I guess maybe we are in.
I think it's time that we start to see this, and I know that we all think, oh, Jim Harbaugh is not going to come here. We're being used again, because we always seem to get used. But this seems to me to be, he continues to go farther and farther down the road, right? Like, okay, I'll come talk to you now. And at some point in time, I think we just have to own up to the fact that he might, I don't know exactly why, want this job. I've heard that, and I believe Dukes said the same thing. I've heard that the other choice, and the Harbaugh thing, I don't know exactly. I've heard that they like Kevin O'Connell, the Rams' non-play calling OC, a lot. And they did talk to him today. So I am wondering if the reality, just spitballing here, of this job is O'Connell or Harbaugh. And Kwesi is tied into both. He obviously was in a director, I think, of research role with the Niners when Harbaugh was there, but that was probably a little bit more distant because like he was just starting in the business and Jim was the coach. The O'Connell tie-in with Kwesi to me is more intriguing.
Yeah.
2016, O'Connell had like a entry-level coaching job there.
Special projects coach.
Kwesi was, so like, I bet that they worked side by side. My point being is, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Kwesi was leaning towards O'Connell and didn't mind the thought of Harbaugh. But the Harbaugh thing, I just keep going back to. I am willing to bet the Wilfs are so intrigued because this, I mean, can you imagine the attention, right or wrong, good or bad? Can you imagine if you parade Jim Harbaugh, Phil, up to the podium on Thursday or Friday and say, okay, folks, here's our coach. That is going to get quite a bang. And I think the Wilfs, I'll go back to what I keep saying. I think they love that.
So, okay, Harbaugh, O'Connell, Raheem Morris, and Pat Graham. Of those four guys, Jim Harbaugh is the surefire. If you want to win games, Jim Harbaugh's the guy. You're gonna win. You're gonna finish above 500, much more often than not, with Jim Harbaugh. And yes, I know that he's quirky. I know that he's been like a 3, 4, 5 year and then burnout guy at almost every place he's been, both college and pro.
Sure.
He's got a bizarre personality, and there's been some disputes between him and management, both in college and most notably and famously in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. He is not Mike Zimmer. I just want to make that clear. And we talked about this. We did a couple episodes of the weekend about Jim Harbaugh. Yes, they're both a little older, and they're both perceived as being a little bit more grizzled. Alex Boone, who's going to join us tomorrow on Purple Daily for his regularly scheduled visit, has really helped characterize the difference between Mike Zimmer, who he played for, and Jim Harbaugh, and that Harbaugh is much more of a player-friendly coach, much more of an offensive innovator than Mike Zimmer would ever dream or want or care to be, right? Mm-hmm. And for at least the first 2 or 3 years in San Francisco, when they were going to the NFC Championship game and then they were going to a Super Bowl, he had that locker room all in, us against the world, us against opposing teams, us against the league, even us against doubters in the front office. Like, it was everyone in the same boat together, even though, he can be a little abrasive sometimes. He had everyone going in the same direction. Mike Zimmer hasn't had that in years with the Vikings. There's been offensive, defensive rifts and coaching staff rifts and turnover and everything for 4 or 5 years. And so I just, I'm not saying that Jim Harbaugh wouldn't come in and, potentially cause some ripple effects and some tension in the organization, but he is not Mike Zimmer. You wouldn't be replacing Mike Zimmer with another like abrasive, hard to get along with coach from a locker room perspective. Jim is a much better team builder from everything that we have heard than Mike Zimmer is. I still go back to this question though. Mm-hmm. What do they want to do in 2022? Are they going to try and run it back and just because there are ways to get under the cap. If you want to restructure a couple contracts and I don't know how you can get under the cap enough to pull off a couple big free agent signings to fix your center problem and your right guard problem, and you may have an edge rusher problem. But if the Wilfs are looking at this and potentially Kwesi and saying, hey, a better coach, a more offensive-minded coach is going to squeeze more toothpaste out of this tube. Yep. Jim Harbaugh has a winning track record. This team should have won 11 games. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's just bring a better coaching staff in. Like I don't love the idea of running this back. I think you should clear the way for 2023. I don't know that Jim Harbaugh would be down for that. And those are some of the things we need to find out in the next couple days, I guess.
So I think Kwesi probably thinks exactly like you do and probably has said that. The Wilfs, man, I think that this intrigues them. And the reality is there's never a time, and this is great as fans, there's never a time that they do not want to win. And so My sense is that this crept up as an opportunity that they didn't think was there until like the last week or so. Okay. And then it's like, okay, this guy, to your point, Phil, this guy is not Mike. He has had great success in the National Football League with quarterbacks. That's a huge difference.
Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick.
Exactly.
He developed Andrew Luck at Stanford. Yes.
So he could say, give me one more crack with Cousins. And if that does not work, give me a new quarterback. We'll draft one. Kellen
I
Mond,
am told here, since we're sprinkling some nuggets in here.
Yep.
Here, let me do this justice here. There we go.
Much better.
Speculation.
I am told in his homework that he's been doing on the roster that Jim is very much intrigued by Kirk Cousins' accuracy and by the work that he was able to do with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick and Andrew Luck in college. That he looks at Cousins and says, just as a football coach looking at a quarterback, yeah, there's a lot to work with there. Now, organizationally, you might say, there might be a lot to work with, but that $45 million cap hit is a lot to work with too much to work with, and we feel like there's enough teams desperate for quarterback help that we could get a first-round pick for him, in which case, are you okay, Jim, with Kellen Mond, maybe a first-round, second-round draft pick, and a bridge quarterback that we find to be determined, whether it's a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Marcus Mariota or someone like that? Would he sign up for that job minus? I could see why he, as a football coach, a quarterback whisperer, would sign up for a job to work with Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I get one of the 15 best quarterbacks in the world. Yep. There's still some upside to tap into there. Would he sign up for the job if it didn't involve an answer at quarterback? That's the question.
The more I think about that question, the more I personally think no. I think he would say, give me one more shot with Kirk. I really do. But so the Harbaugh factor and potential hire from all ends would be great fun. Because, it could be spectacular. It could be a spectacular failure. What it would not be is boring. Do I think that the Vikings, if they go with Harbaugh, are going to have the answers to the questions, Phil, that you just broached? No, I don't. I think they might, but they won't. Which, again, the sensible me says O'Connell or a guy like that makes more sense. Like the sensible, 22. Don't try and stink, but if you're not good, you're going to develop things. Shop Kirk, like all of that makes more sense. If it's Harbaugh, my guess is that they don't have the answers to the questions that you are bringing up, that they're going to try and piecemeal those things together. But what they're going to say is what you said at the top of the show, Phil, which is he can win, and he can win now. And we are going to move tickets. We are going to have excitement. These people went and got Brett Favre. Like they went and got Brett Favre. So we can't discount.
They are splashy.
They don't think like we think, which is good and bad. But they have gone and gotten Randy Moss. They have done things that are equally as big as this, or in the case of Brett Favre, bigger. So do they always think it through probably as logical as they probably should? No. But what they do think is this is the way to get the attention. And this league across the board, boys, it's about one thing, right? It does a marvelous job of grabbing its fans and shaking them and saying, here's something that's going to get your attention.
Don't you find it interesting, you guys, though, that like Jim Harbaugh is being looked at as this polarizing, risky, you better be careful. He's a little bit odd and he's a little maybe old school and it can be kind of a risk. Well, Kevin O'Connell's like 37, never been a head coach, right? It doesn't call plays. He's right in the mix in large part because Sean McVay is his boss and because there's been a couple other guys that Sean McVay has produced, Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur. That's a risk. Raheem Morris, I like Raheem Morris, by the way, but he got fired in Tampa 12 years ago. I think he was set up to fail there because they stripped their payroll down and a bunch of veteran players left, and he actually still won 10 games, but he was deemed as a failure as a head coach. Like everyone on this list here, Kevin O'Connell, Jim Harbaugh, Raheem Morris, Pat Graham, even DeMeco Ryans before he pulled his name out of the ring. They're all risky to some extent. The one that's actually the least risky in terms of will you win games is Jim Harbaugh. Am I nuts?
Not immediately, but so here's my question. And it's the question that I have been told for a long time now. Rick Spielman asked to Brad Childress when he traded for Moss. My question to the Wilfs is this: can you control him?
Can you
deal with him?
Can you not try to control him?
Right. But I mean, are you okay with him being who he is? Because ultimately, that's him. That's my question. Can you when you have used the word collaboration approximately 5,000 times since January the 10th, can you take on a coach who very well might at first play nice, but eventually is going to say, here's how I win games, gentlemen? That's my question. Can you control him, and can you get him to do what you want? Because I think ultimately with the Wilfs, that often becomes important.
Yeah, Dax, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I'm curious what he wants to do at the quarterback position, because when he was in San Francisco, obviously he plugs in Colin Kaepernick after Smith goes down. They go to the doorstep of being on winning a Super Bowl. He then has a couple more playoff wins. They shut down Lambeau Field a few times. Good for Colin Kaepernick. He then signs, I believe, like a 6-year, $110 million deal. His cap hit goes up. Niners kind of stall out a little bit. Harbaugh and management gets a little bit stale there, and he flames out and he goes to Michigan. And of course, college football, NFL, very much a different ball game there. But like Michigan hasn't had dominating quarterback play. In fact, like they don't look like a team that is ever going to like put up big gaudy quarterback numbers in the Big Ten. So if he looks at Kirk Cousins and says, well, like, hold on, Kirk has like, at least statistically, and just from my 30,000 foot view, he's probably one of the better quarterbacks I ever had to deal with. Or does he say, look, I've been able to get it done with rookies. I've been able to get it done with cheaper rosters. I can find someone else and I can develop them, which is what he did with Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. So, and I think the Kellen Mond part of it is even more interesting. What does he think of Kellen Mond? Mond was a nice college prospect who put up some nice numbers at Texas A&M, but is clearly not a finished product. Kaepernick wasn't either. I think his evaluation of what he wants to do at quarterback is probably what can sway Kwesi. He's going to have that conversation with him and try to figure out, what do I want to do at quarterback, and are we on the same page? Because I think he hasn't told us, obviously, but Kwesi probably has his mind made up of what he wants to do with Kirk Cousins. And if the head coaches that he's interviewing are combating with him on that idea, then he's probably out on those head coaches. So I think that's probably the biggest like talking point on the poker table here of who's going to be the next head coach, and do they see eye to eye with Kwesi's plan?
Here's another thing, too, on the Harbaugh front. He would almost certainly bring in Vic Fangio to be his defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio, as either a defensive coordinator in San Francisco, Chicago, or as a head coach in Denver, has produced 5 top 10 defenses in the last 10 years. This defense would turn around in a heartbeat if healthy. Now, I think Mike Zimmer still has some coaching chops on the defensive side. I think injuries were a problem. Zimmer maybe just grew stale. But Vic Fangio would come in here, and the defense would not be a bottom 5 defense unless injuries ravage the locker room again. So you wouldn't only be hiring Harbaugh, you'd be hiring Harbaugh plus Fangio, and then get all the benefits of Harbaugh developing quarterbacks. The more I speak about this, like I'm thinking about the best case scenario of Harbaugh. There's also a chance too, let's face it, he's been out of the NFL for what, 8 years? 7, 8 years? I think 2014 maybe, 13, 14 was his last year.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So 8, 9 years, that's a long time. So is it possible that think about how much the league has changed in the last even 4 or 5 years, right? All the different quarterbacks that are in the league now, the game is a lot different. It's basically around the time Mike Zimmer took over as head coach. You'd say the league kind of passed Mike Zimmer by. There is half a chance, if not more, that the league has just evolved beyond what Jim Harbaugh is used to, and you have to factor that in too. Kevin O'Connell and Pat Graham and Raheem Morris have been immersed in the league as it is and have had, at least with the 2 Rams coordinators, some pretty decent success over the past few years.
Yeah, this all feels like it's got the ingredients and potential for a shotgun wedding of sorts, right? Like it just all feels very rushed. And again, I'm not going to stop it because it's too much fun. Like this is great. I love this stuff. Coaching searches are outstanding. It's not my cash.
Speculation.
And I mean, a podcast at 9:16 at night on a Monday because the Vikings might go, and make this move. But I do think that there is something to be said, though. So if Kwesi can make, like, if this is his thing, right? Like, if this is his decision solely, I got to think he goes O'Connell and then tries to lure Graham away from the Giants as the DC and goes to work on trying to build here. I really have to think that, because here's the problem. If you are going to keep Kirk for sure and have any hope of trying to win in 2022, you almost certainly have to extend him, right? Because like that cap hit's not really doable. Like if you don't care if you lose football games, it's doable. But if you care about and say Jim Harbaugh is going to coach our team and he's going to win, and Fangio is going to come in and we're going to rebuild the defense for Vic, you can't say, and our quarterback is going to have approximately a cap hit of $45 million. No. I don't see that. So I will say, in the Harbaugh scenario, if you do the mental gymnastics, I got to think if he says keep Kirk, they extend Kirk. And now you're sort of going to start to run things back a bit. Again, I think it would be fun to watch. I don't know it's the most prudent, smart move for the long-term health here.
Dude, it is.
But I mean, I'm not going to look, it's too much fun. Sorry.
It's a blast, man. Jim Harbaugh is, if you're just joining us, here's the latest, all right? And by the way, if you are just joining us, thank you for hanging out with us on this Monday night as we sit here and go through the latest Vikings head coaching news. It's Purple Daily, Purple After Dark, Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff. We're popping your comments up on the screen from the Score North Facebook page and also the Purple Daily YouTube channel. Please click the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel if you are hanging out with us, and click the like button if you just love this time of year. This is so much fun.
It's great.
Jim Harbaugh is going to skip at least a chunk of National Signing Day on Wednesday to interview as a finalist for the Minnesota Vikings head coaching position.
He's got to be done there. He's got to be done there.
Oh, man. Kevin O'Connell and Raheem Morris, the offensive and defensive coordinators for the Rams, have already completed or are in the process of completing their interviews as finalists in person with the Vikings in Los Angeles. And then Pat Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, longtime Bill Belichick assistant coach, is going to interview as a finalist in Minneapolis on Tuesday, according to reports. DeMeco Ryans, Niners defensive coordinator, he is out. He has taken himself out as a finalist. Doesn't want to leave San Francisco. On the Kevin O'Connell front, I love the Sean McVay coaching tree. I think it's already a better coaching tree than Bill Belichick's coaching tree in 20 years. He does have a history with Cousins. He was Kirk Cousins' quarterback's coach in 2017 and also the QB coach pass game coordinator. That was the year after Kirk left. He was Kirk's quarterback's coach in 2017 in Washington. And then he's been the Rams' non-play calling offensive coordinator the last couple of years. It feels like the Vikings are leaning offensive here with O'Connell and Harbaugh as their top two candidates, just based on sort of reading the tea leaves and digesting some reports here. But, how much are you worried that they would be targeting O'Connell because of his association to the McVay coaching tree versus actual substance of him as a coach?
The Vikings seem to get enamored with things, right? And I think it probably right now helps O'Connell's case that with Zach Taylor going to the Super Bowl with the Bengals, he was McVay's quarterback's coach the last time that they went and lost to the Patriots. And if you recall, he didn't call plays, didn't have, I believe he had started like as assistant wide receivers coach and then became Jared Goff's position coach. And my guess is the Vikings are saying, hey, this guy's a bright guy. He's good. And plus the association with Kirk. Here's my question about the association with Kirk, though. So 2017, I believe Washington was 7-9 with Jay Gruden there. And Jay Gruden took some shots at Kirk after Kirk left. So my question is, did O'Connell have a great relationship with Kirk, or did he side with Gruden a bit too? Like that's the one I can't decide if that hire would be made to say, hey, join the club and we've still got Kirk, or if he has said, hey, you know what, I'd prefer Kirk be gone. Because if Kwesi's going to crunch the numbers, Phil and Dex, like he probably is, I can't imagine that he's chomping at the bit to keep Kirk.
No.
So O'Connell might say, hey, that's cool. I'd much prefer to try and develop a QB than to hang on to an expensive one who I worked with in 17. And by the way, didn't have a great year and then left. So I'm not sure it's a given that O'Connell and Kirk, just spitballing here, are as tied together as it comes off just because they worked together for that season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to, because O'Connell knows so much about Kirk, right?
Yes.
And on one hand, the familiarity could be a positive. You say, I get to come into a situation. I know the quarterback. I know I've already worked with him. We can work together. Would he be blinded by the comfortability of having, Kirk's not going to, if you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, you're not going 3-14. Like he's better than that, right? He's not Jared Goff. He's not going to shipwreck 6 games for you like some of these guys.
8 and 9.
But he's never shown the ability to rise above things enough or to beat great teams or to perform in prime time. Like he's never shown you that 12, 13, 14 win ceiling either. I know people blame everything else around him. I just wonder, it's such an interesting knot to untangle. Like if you're Kevin O'Connell and you're presented with 2 choices, hey, the familiarity of Kirk Cousins or the blank canvas of cap space, a 3-year grace period to build something from scratch, and maybe a draft pick like a Malik Willis that you can mold and maybe turn him into a top 6 guy or something. I don't know what these guys are thinking. I would think that everyone involved would love a blank canvas and a 3-year runway to develop someone young and new and cap space for 2023. That's what I would want. But also some of these guys know too that, like, listen, if you have 1 or 2 bad years, you can just get fired. You're not guaranteed a 3rd year as a head coach or a general manager. And so if you can just get off to a decent start by winning some games with Kirk Cousins and then figure it out from there, then better than starting from scratch. It's easy for the ownership group to promise you, hey, go draft a quarterback, strip down the roster, and aim for 2 years from now. But then when those losses are piling up, you see a lot of teams in the NFL get very trigger happy and fire coaches and GMs. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
This also goes back to among the key questions that we don't know the answers to at this point, which is why was Spielman fired after we all knew he was being kept? Because we thought certain that he was going to be kept, basically promoted out of the GM job, and then a GM was going to be hired who Rick was going to help. I mean, did Harbaugh get involved here? His name, and Rick's like, whoa. There is some real mystery here that I love. Like there are unanswered questions about this process, and I don't even know that they would rise to the level of having conspiracy theories, but there are some answers we don't have that I think are probably very important in trying to put together what exactly the hell is going on right now.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with Declan. Who would you hire of these 4 finalists? Jim Harbaugh, Kevin O'Connell, Raheem Morris, and Pat Graham. Who would your guy be? And who do you think it will be?
I'm trying to really talk myself into the Jim Harbaugh, like being all in on it, like because I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued. I'm not like backing off on it. I'm not trying to like poo-poo it, but the volatility is very, very high. Professionally, it'd be an unbelievable blast to cover him because he's insane, and I think he'd be a lot of fun to just hear what he says after games and practices, and it'd be a blast. Personally, the Vikings fandom that's still in me, I think it could be an absolute disaster. I think it could be an epic chapter in Vikings football for all the wrong reasons, to be completely honest. That being said, I still like Raheem Morris. I think Raheem Morris is still the one that intrigues me the most. And O'Connell, I don't know. There's too many question marks there. He has a relationship with Kirk. I mean, he was Sean McVay's OC for the last 2 years. I mean, they were starting Jared Goff and like John Walford last year, for God's sakes, and they still made it to a divisional round. So how much was that McVay's influence? How much did Kevin O'Connell also play into that? McVay offensive genius that is the LA Rams right now, being in the Super Bowl. So I would say Raheem Morris is still my favorite. Kevin O'Connell would be third. Pat Graham, I don't know. I doesn't do anything for
Poor
me.
Pat Graham.
It is vanilla ice cream.
Just a defensive guy with the Giants.
I'm out on the Belichick coaching tree, and I'm out on the Giants coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm good.
Sorry.
I'm good.
All right, so Graham, I believe that there's a connection with Kwesi and O'Connell and Graham. So I think that is primarily to try and vet his interest in being potentially the DC here. The Giants are trying to keep him in that job so that there's a chance that he won't move. I am going to go for the good of the franchise move. I'm going to go O'Connell, Morris, Harbaugh.
That's yours, or
that's what I am for. That's mine for the good of the franchise. But for fun, my top choice, Harbaugh. It's easy. It could be a disaster, but it's going to be fun.
And you're not gonna. But it's not going to be. It's. I don't think it's.
But it could blow up. It could blow up in 3 years. Bad.
It could be bad.
But I mean, Phil. But yeah, I'm not going to fight it.
Dude, let me pull this up just so I'm not just pulling things out thin here, but I'm pretty sure they went 8-8 in his disaster burn it down season.
They did,
like,
but I mean,
the disaster was 8-8, and they almost made the playoffs.
Right, but you'd still be back at the point of like it would go bad, possibly real bad internally, which it just did. Like you're trying to avoid this again. Dude, but
he went 44-19. 44-19 with the
Hear
Niners.
me. I'm saying bring it on. I'm also saying for the sanity of the franchise, I think it might be a really bad idea. But as a longtime Viking follower, hell yeah.
Okay.
And you're right about the record.
I think Judd needs to tell us about Surly before I give you my two answers here. All right? Let's take a quick little sip of something here, a little halftime. Not halftime. Like we're almost done here, but
calls for one choice. There's no search. There's no long. I'm not flying across the country. I am right here, and I'm talking about the best beer around. Surly, and in particular, Surly Furious IPA. This is when you got a coaching search, and right now you got a coaching search, and you're thinking to yourself, I need something to drink, Judd. I need something to take the edge off this coaching search. What can I? Surly Furious IPA. It's always there. Unlike the Vikings, it'll never let you down.
It won't. All right. I think Harbaugh is less risky than you do, than probably both you guys do.
Okay.
Because again, he went 44-19. I think the risk is more like how it's been 7.5 years.
Okay.
It's a long time in the NFL. So I'm good with Harbaugh. I would hire Raheem Morris. I think Raheem Morris, the fact that he won 10 games as a 33-year-old with a Tampa organization that had no real quarterback, that was one of the lowest spending teams in recent NFL history because they were stripping their payroll down. All the veterans on those Gruden teams left. And people have raved about him as a leader, as a teacher, as a motivator, and he has experience on the offensive and defense sides of the ball. I want Raheem Morris to get a second chance. I'm very intrigued. I think it's going to be Harbaugh. So I would hire Raheem Morris. I think they're going to hire Harbaugh. I just have a weird feeling that why would you fly him in if you're not going to hire him?
Yeah, I think, yes.
Would you fly him in on Wednesday if you weren't hiring him?
And he wouldn't fly in. That's the thing is like we're eventually going to cross a threshold here where our paranoia about this is all about the Dolphins job, right? Like if he's going to come here, if he gets here, I think there's a very good chance that he leaves here as the coach.
Okay, conspiracy theories. Let's keep going down this path of conspiracy theories, okay? Is there a chance?
Reckless speculation.
That however the strings are being pulled here, that the interview is set up for Wednesday.
Yep.
To give the Dolphins 48 hours to make an offer.
Might be what the Harbaugh camp is trying to do.
That it's essentially Harbaugh's way of saying, all right, I'm taking this interview on Wednesday. By the way, Michigan, I'm taking this interview on Wednesday, National Signing Day, if you don't up your offer.
Yeah.
And Miami, Miami, I'm taking this interview on Wednesday. You have 48 hours to give me $9 million a year and a 7-year guarantee contract or something.
Sure.
Why not tomorrow? Why not today? They talked on Saturday. Why didn't they talk today? Why tomorrow? Maybe the Vikings already had that LA trip planned, and so they said,
I think
they're getting back tomorrow, and they're going to talk to Pat Graham in Minneapolis tomorrow. Why not Harbaugh tomorrow? Why the cushion?
I thought that they were going to stop. Originally, I thought the plan was to stop and talk to Ryans on Tuesday in the Bay Area, but he canceled, so who knows? But yes, anything is possible. Mm-hmm. So here's my one potential semi-conspiracy selling point on why O'Connell intrigues me. Raheem Morris, if he gets this job, and he seems like a very smart guy. He definitely learned a ton, and I like him. But he's going to be a guy that gets here and tries to win. It's going to be a second/third bite at this type of job. He's going to try to win. Mm-hmm. I don't know O'Connell at all, but if he's like Taylor is with the Bengals,
tank.
He and Kwesi, over a few seltzers or Surly Furiouses, might talk about the dream. And the dream is the 2019 Bengals, 2-14. Oh, woe is us. Woe is our team. We can barely get a yard. What are we going to do? Because don't forget, we're being told by people far more draft savvy than us boys that the 2023 quarterback draft is far superior to this draft. And you know what? If you just allow it to fall apart a little bit, I'm just saying, you just allow it to fall apart. Perhaps you don't trade Kirk. You keep Kirk and you point the finger at Kirk. $45 million cap hit. How could we improve? And you fall apart. Zach Taylor did exactly that. And today, he is in day one of a 2-week wait to play in the Super Bowl.
Reckless speculation.
That's why O'Connell intrigues me. And if O'Connell is at all a quarterback whisperer, that's the one thing is, if you do that, you got to be confident that you can hit, which a guy like Rick didn't have that confidence. Anyway.
And to the point that you're making here, okay, I think I agree with you on O'Connell. I think if they hire O'Connell, it's definitely, all right, we're moving on from Kirk. We're going to bring in a young quarterback, whether it's 2022 or 23.
We might not move on from Kirk in 22.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're moving on long term from Kirk.
I know.
And we'll go from there.
Yep.
And if they do put chips on the 2023 table, as of right now, the Vikings are set up to have $81 million in cap space before restructured contracts in 2023. Just to put that into context, right now the leading team for cap space this year has $75 million. Now there's probably other teams that have more than $81 million 2 years out from now. So I'm not saying that they're like in this unique position.
Sure.
But they haven't had actual cap space in years. They've been kicking the can down the road, and they've had to go back to Kyle Rudolph 9 times, restructure that contract. They went back to Chad Greenway last week, I heard. It's I'm just kidding. But
they cut his salary again. But I don't work for you anymore.
We're cutting your K-Fan salary and your Grey Goose or whatever it's called, or Grey Duck. So they're if they can just be patient in 2022 and not get too caught up in maybe we can just win 10 games and see what happens. They are primed for a big push in 2023. Jefferson still in his prime. Daniil Hunter might still be here and healthy and in his prime, right? They've got a runway here, but are they willing to absorb some blows in 2022 to make it happen?
And that's what I don't know.
Coach is okay with it. O'Connell seems like...
And the Wilfs are? That's my question. Are the Wilfs okay with that? Because I think it could be brilliant, but I don't know that they would get on board. But it makes sense. And I will say this. So the 3 people that went to talk to Morris and O'Connell today, according to Dukes, were Kwesi, Mark Wilf, and Rob Brzezinski, who can tell O'Connell all about the cap. And listen, Rob Kev, is very calculated.
Kev, let me let you know a secret here. We're screwed.
Yeah, we're screwed, but we don't have to be.
Full disclosure.
Kwesi's a genius, and so am I. I'm just saying, Rob brings a sensibility to the table that is not a fan's, which is good. And so you could paint a picture of Kwesi talks about the football, Brzezinski talks about the money, and they all agree. And if O'Connell says, I can find the quarterback with Kwesi, that's getting into a territory that Rick and Mike could only dream about.
I feel like Harbaugh is a lot like what I'm sipping on right here, which is tequila, which is very volatile. If you're just having a glass before bed, it's great. You know what you're doing. You're not pushing your limits. You're having one. You're fine. If you have too much tequila, you can be waking up in a pit of despair that you might never, ever recover from. And Kevin O'Connell is that nice domesticated beer. Yep. He's a nice, reliable beer that you can kind of nurse for a long time as you figure out what's my options here. I'm going to bring this full circle to alcohol. And they're still trying to find, though, they're Surly Furious. They're trying to figure out what is the actual thing that they really want that gets this team to win a Super Bowl before we all die. And yes, he is. Despite my babyish face, I am turning 30 this year. So I am old enough to drink this. I know that seems
magic.
Crazy.
I love mixtapes.
Yeah. That's my alcohol comparison for this head coaching search, by the way. Half a tequila in.
Oh, I'm so torn here between smart and stupid. But stupid could be good.
But is it stupid
it's
to
not
hire
stupid. That's
Jim
not the right
Harbaugh?
word.
He's
it's not
44
stupid.
and 19 in the NFL.
It's not stupid. It is knee jerk.
By the way, you want to talk stupid?
Or knee jerk.
The Jacksonville Jaguars put in a request to interview Kevin O'Connell yesterday, and they were told, yeah, idiots, you had to put that request in before the divisional round.
Which is why the Vikings started to do it, which I didn't know about. Yeah, that's very smart.
So that's why the Vikings laid
the Jaguars and I were on the same page. Yeah, you had to do that.
Jags like, oh, okay. Like, what an idiot franchise that is. Also, did you guys see any of the Ryan Poles press conference with the Bears today?
Oh,
yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah,
he was like reading off a piece of paper, and at one point he said, we're going to build through the draft and he used some like cliche, we're going to build through the draft and be selective in free agency. It's like,
I don't know.
Okay.
It's his first press conference, nervous. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but at least Kwesi went up there with
he was
full
good.
confidence and just the ability.
He was really good. He was
owned
great.
that room. He wasn't nervous at all.
Nope.
If we're just grading out the press conferences, Vikings definitely have the lead on the Bears.
Speaking in public can be difficult, so I don't know.
Better get used to it, though, if you're an NFL general
manager.
You're going to be
no
speaking in front of rooms of players. And
definitely.
So, well, I think that's a wrap for us here, boys. It's a little impromptu Purple After Dark episode.
Oh, there's plenty of time for more news to break. There's plenty of time for reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
I am torn here, though. I am totally torn.
Yeah, let us know in the YouTube comment section. What do you guys think? Who would you? So Harbaugh, O'Connell, Raheem Morris, Pat Graham, rank them, I guess. Let us know, and we'll hit you back tomorrow on Purple Daily here. And if you're new, welcome in. This is Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. We say that in every episode of Purple Daily. So, hiring a new coach is a good step in the right direction. Got to have a coach if you want to win a Super Bowl.
That would help.
It's pretty tough. Tough if you don't have one. So, all right, boys. Cheers to Surly. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Purple Daily.
Night.